So really the complexities in Kubernetes and cloud native is something that when I found an issue or look at a Kubernetes and then a security issue in that Kubernetes, it's sometimes too late. And really, one of the complexities is to trace it back to the origin, to the source. So to be ability to understand the issue, the origin of the issue, and then who needs to fix that issue, and of course, if it's critical. The second part is, as I'm building Kubernetes and cloud native services and applications, what I really need to look at is that the issues themselves are actually coming from the build, from the code, and DevOps teams that are deploying that Kubernetes can understand those issues before that Kubernetes is deployed. So from that perspective, some of the complexities are the ability to look at kind of the end result or the goal of the Kubernetes and deployment, taking it and shifting it left, and then finding those issues really before they're becoming released into production. From a prioritization perspective, first, it's really important to understand the environment. So it's not just about having code tools and security, looking at containers and runtime. It's not a separate process. So we need to understand the entire pipeline. Once you understand the entire pipeline, understand the environment, you can look at business initiatives and how the business is operating. Then we're taking the attack analysis and how attackers approach those types of vulnerabilities and security issues. By understanding all these points and connecting them together through our own proprietary research, we enable that level of prioritization that is tailored to every customer's environment, which means that it's not just about understanding which application has a vulnerability, but also understanding if this is an application that's important for the business, understanding if that vulnerability can be exploited or an attacker has the ability to reach that vulnerability to exploit it, combining all that information together and providing also prioritization and guidance to defenders. The benefits really of a tool-centric approach is around specialization and being able to bring in, let's say, the best in class. The downside is that it creates a lot of coverage issues, and not all the time the output of those tools makes sense. From a platform approach perspective, a platform provides a full coverage of the entire pipeline. And in some areas, like in Ox, it enables you to deep dive into SCA, SBOM, container issues, connect the entire picture. And from this point, enable you to prioritize issues across the pipeline and not in specific areas. So out of those blind spots, which are a factor in deciding which approach do I want to take, the other factor which I want to take is that tools have limited visibility. With a platform approach, you have that visibility of the entire pipeline. So when you're connecting tools to Ox, we enable you to take a better ROI from those tools, get more value by providing that layer of visibility, additional coverage, and also in that sense, prioritize and automate the response across the entire pipeline. As security teams are looking at their strategies, really the factor that I think is the most important is how do I collaborate between the security of my application and other elements of security. When I'm choosing a tool-centric approach, it's very hard to integrate. It's hard to understand the output and how the output can help me in my overall security strategy. With a platform approach, and especially Ox Security with Oscar, security teams can collaborate better, understand the attacker point of view, and while developers are working to fix risks that are already deployed. So when I deploy a Kubernetes, for example, a Kubernetes cluster with vulnerabilities, those vulnerabilities can be exploited. Once I understand which are those vulnerabilities, the source, where to fix it, with Oscar and Ox, I can also understand other mitigations that I can do on my cloud native or my environment that will help me mitigate the risk while it's being fixed. So what it really gives security teams and development and DevOps team is really the ability to collaborate and to reduce a lot of the noise, because we can put those best practices into the development pipeline, provide the guidance for developer at that merge, at that build, even before anything is deployed, and especially for cloud native environments where deployment can be once a day or even more. So we can react to issues as they happen before they create risk to the business. So compliance, it's a big topic. And really organizations today and companies find themselves struggling with different audits and maintaining the compliance. And every time that something is being released, it might create a compliance violation. So what Ox does, and really how Ox helps organizations with different compliance frameworks, is understanding how every issue violates a compliance framework if it's going to be released. So before something is released, we can help other companies understand that that specific security issue violates their compliance, which means that they can decide if they are under audit, for example, not to release it or to mitigate it or fix it before it is released. The other section from that perspective is that compliance is something that seems like daunting, and it's kind of a continuous task, and you don't want to keep all of your issues until the audit, because what will happen is that developers will start fixing compliance issues instead of developing, staying competitive in the market, really growing their own business. So instead they are going through regulations. So that regulations don't have to be complicated. And as I continuously invest in security and compliance together and collaborating those two or consolidating those two together, we enable that streamline of security practices. We enable companies to really develop without the concern of violating regulation, getting fines, losing certificates, which is really bad for business, but eventually having that as part of their security strategy and building compliance into their development pipeline.